Hello, I'm Todd Clint, and welcome to Setting Up Your Server with Jason Himmelstein and Todd Clint, where we walk you through setting up your server for our IT Unity webinar. Jason, take it away.
This is our script to prep a Windows server. And amusingly enough, we had the same script. We talked this through. Turns out that you do exactly the same thing I do.
Yeah, yours is more beautiful than mine, though. Yours is better commented than mine. But yeah, it was interesting. As Jason was showing me his, I was too embarrassed to show him mine. It was all the same things in almost all the same order. It was it was the great minds think alike thing kicked in.
And you never know. There may be some new stuff that's been added since we started the upload of this. But basically what this does is it turns off things like UAC, enables remote desktop. Depending upon what version you're on, you may need that. It will enable adding in PowerShell ISE if you're on a Windows 2008 R2 box or earlier. It tells you everything that's going on as well. It also allows you to change the name of your server. So we're going to go ahead and run through this script now. The other thing it does is it changes the time zone for you, which is really nice. So using my PowerShell profile script, I've already got some of this stuff in here. So we're going to go ahead and run the new server prep script. Here you see all of the info popping up and telling us what we're doing. And then we're going to rename this server, which was a really nice add. Just before we went live with this one, we went ahead and added that in. We thought about doing some error catching, but decided against it. So using the magic of Camtasia, we have jumped ahead in time. And we are now, we've now rebooted the server. This is the same box. We're now going to make this server a domain controller. So this is a simple script, lot of stuff that you will find when you go through TechNet in order to actually activate running what you need to make a domain controller here. So it's going to go ahead and add in the domain services. It's going to go ahead and import the Active Directory deployment module. And then it's, a couple things that I do extra in this script. I'm asking you what you want to name it. So I have a temp variable loaded up here of $D domain name and $D domain netbios name. So we actually go ahead and launch the script. You'll see that that happens. Then we go ahead and do an install of an AD Forest, run through all the options. I drop into the standard default locations. Here you can see we are now on DC001 instead of trash DC. And now if I run PowerShell here,
Yep, so once again, Jason and I both had scripts that did this. Once again, his was prettier. The only thing that mine does, it does it at the end after it's at the part after run after the reboot, is installs all the tools. And I don't know, I don't think yours does that. Because I think there's a
really
chicken and the egg part
that.
of that. But I've found that I like to have all those tools there.
So here, I do ask that you type anything. You don't actually have to type anything, just anything. You can just type it. That way we know we are, in fact, installing an Active Directory domain controller here. So we're going to run off and do our installation. You'll see lots of interactive screens as we go along. And through the magic of Camtasia, we're actually not going to trim any of this for you. This takes about 3 minutes to run through before we hit that last reboot. So happily, it's a pretty quick installation. So what actually happens, Todd, when we're doing an Active Directory domain controller installation? What are the core things that actually get installed here?
Well, so since this is a new forest, we're not only installing a new domain and domain controller, but we're installing a new forest. So that's actually the command that Jason's running in his script. But it's doing things like building out the FSMO roles and setting up DNS and creating the zones inside of DNS and all those things so that when this machine reboots, it will have all of the powers that it needs to do all the login stuff, all the DNS stuff, everything that you'll need for a test environment. I'm a big fan of doing this kind of thing because it's great documentation and like we said, this is spinning up a new domain. So in your production environment, hopefully you're using a script like this. You would use a little different terminology to do this, but guys like Jason and I, and probably you if you're watching this, build a lot of test environments, and having a script like this in your back pocket that just throws everything on a server with nice prompts and colors. Jason does a great job with colors. I've been inspired by Jason's scripts to add more colors to my script. So these are great scripts to have.
I do try to make it pretty,
You've shamed me. I'm publicly shamed.
So here we're going to go ahead and give the FQDM we want to create. The domain that we're using for our webinar is actually jhtkfun.com. Don't use that one because I own that domain. I actually went out and bought jhtkfun.com just to do this with Todd. And we actually have an SSL cert and everything as well. The good people at DigiCert give us as MVPs. One of the benefits is we get some free stuff. One of the things they give us is free SSL search for doing cool stuff like this. So go out to digicert.com if you're looking for some certs out there. So we're going to go ahead and blast on through here. We're going to let bobsburgers.com, obviously that's not real, and Bob's Burgers as our NetBIOS name for the domain. This will pass those in, and now we're going to see that couple of minutes. It takes about 3 minutes. I paused here for just a minute to show you, but once this actually starts off, I'm going to give it a password. If I can type my password correctly, I like long passwords. So let's see if I can type it correctly twice.
Probably not.
But,
Please fail. Please fail.
Oh no! Yes! So I'm gonna type a shorter one here.
That's it. I'm buying a lottery ticket tonight.
So since this is going to be a blowaway domain anyway, I don't mind using using my secure ATM pin 1234567 as my password there.
What an amazing!
This is going to go off and it's going to do that fancy thing with installing everything. And at this point, this will take just a couple more minutes, and then we'll be done having our domain up and running. In order to actually get another server joined to this domain, since the homework here was to have a domain controller and an AD Connect server, there's another script that we'll put into the webinar GitHub out there that will allow you to join a computer to a domain. I've been racking my brain trying to pull some stuff together today to try and make it a little bit simpler, but what you need in order to make that happen is you actually need to go ahead and set the IP address of your domain controller as the DNS entry on your member server.
Yep.
That way you can join your domain. Once you've done that, you run through the script that we've given you for server prep, you rename the server, you go in, you set the DNS appropriately. That may or may not show up in the server prep. Who knows? Probably not. Not by the time we get this webinar to done. But the other thing that you can do is just go in manually, set that DNS to the IP address of your domain controller that we're now setting up here. And that way you can go join that member server. Then you can follow through, and what we will be doing during our full webinar is actually run through and do the Azure AD Connect installation. So now this is all almost done here. Sorry, I'm popped a couple things on the screen there. Making sure that I have all my scripts in the right places here in my PowerShell scripts folder for putting everything in the right place. I'm going to make sure that all of that is up for you folks in the GitHub repo. And once this is all finished, it'll be done.
Excitement's killing me.
I know, the suspense,
Oh, jeez.
Todd, anything else worth noting here as we run through? Obviously we're going to need to do a reboot of this server once we're finished.
Yep.
And again, this is for testing purposes only. If you were not doing this just for test purposes, what might you do?
Well, I don't have a lot of advice about that, but I did want to pull out one thing that you did here wisely. You called the fully qualified domain name of the domain bobsburgers.com, and right now, as of August of 2015, Microsoft's guidance on DNS zones is it should be something that's publicly routable, so something that ends in .com, not the dark days of .local that we were originally advised on 10 or 15 years ago. So I like that. I also like that you gave your NetBIOS name the same name as your DNS name, but without the top level domain. So your NetBIOS name is Bob's Burgers. Now, for those of you that are in production environments, you may or may not have that in place, but for test environments, that is absolutely the best way to do it because it makes things a lot easier. The user profile service in particular gets some heartburn if those don't match. So don't try to get fancy and give it a NetBIOS name that's short, that's easy to type or something. Do like Jason did and make them match.
Alrighty, so now we are back up and running. We have rebooted our server, Again, we used a little Camtasia magic here just to make this a little faster for us. But now we can go in and, once this finishes, it'll take just a second to load up. You see, it's just as though we're a normal server right now.
Mm-hmm.
What you'll see happen here is in the roles and server groups, after a quick refresh, it actually will pop up and post as having DNS, having all the domain services.
There it is. There
we go, and some file server stuff as well. So now we are officially a domain controller. DC001 is a domain controller, and we are all happy, and we can go in and do all of the fun things that we need to do to move on to the next setup in our webinar. So thank you all for joining us for this quick tidbit around all of the installation components for a domain. And now, hopefully, this will make it easier for you. You will see right there, there's bobsburgers.com. Make sure you do all of, it's a wonderful show on. I think it's still on Fox at this point. But all of these, I think, Todd, that concludes this. Thank you very much.
So we'll see you guys for the rest of the webinar.